So good afternoon, everybody. So welcome to our Future Leaders Level 5 Apprenticeship information session. As I've already mentioned, I hope that this session proves to be informative. We are here to support you in making the decision that's right for you and at the right time. So what I will do is I'll share my slide deck. And if you've got any questions, please use the chat, but I will naturally pause as we go through this deck. So just to start off, I want to just tell you a little bit about us. Can I just have a quick thumbs up, Richard? Can you see my screen? Perfect. Thank you very much. So I just wanted to start off by giving you a bit of a history about who we are. So Ashridge is an executive business school. We're based in Hertfordshire. We've been developing future leaders and working up to with CEOs and board members since 1959. We actually got involved in the apprenticeship space back in 2017-18 at the request of one of our clients. And the reason that we then decided that this was a really good fit for us as an executive business school was because ever since our founding in 1959, we've really been custodians of application of learning. And you'll hear me talk about applied learning as we go through this session, because ultimately that's where we know that the learning sticks. So the apprenticeship really works well for us, because it is about applied learning and that practical experience and overlaying that into your job role as we go. But I'll come on to that in more detail shortly. So the really good thing about our Level 5 Future Leaders programme is that, we have now become an approved partner with the Chartered Management Institute. So everything talk to you about in this session is going to be underpinned not only by the fantastic teachings and learnings from our faculty on this apprenticeship, but also you have the opportunity to complete the apprenticeship with a Level 5 diploma in leadership and management, making that professional accreditation at that Level 5. For you to help you when you're developing within your careers, or if you're looking for your employees, it really helps to look at that professional accreditation from a management and development perspective. So a little bit more about us. So as a business school, I've already mentioned when we started, but we're also a triple accredited business school. So what does that mean for you? Well, essentially what that means is that we, every 3 to 5 years, have to go back through a validation and regulatory process. It's a quality kind mark, if you will. And they look at our faculty, our delivery, our design of all of our programmes, and that indeed also includes our apprenticeships. It's something we're very proud of because we were one of the first business schools in the UK to achieve such a standard. And of course, having to keep making sure that we retain that is really important to us. So in terms of our design and the delivery of this particular apprenticeship or any other apprenticeships that we deliver, be rest assured that it does have the external scrutiny that one would expect from a provider such as Ashridge. The other thing we're really proud of, and we're really proud of our learners who have gone through numerous different pathways of learning through the apprenticeships with Ashridge, is that 94% of them have completed their apprenticeship and been awarded either a distinction or a merit, which is testament to them. But also I hope it starts to build for you the fact that you will be fully supported throughout your whole apprenticeship journey with us. 4.5 out of 5 of our apprentices said they felt a real impact, immediate impacts throughout the learning journey, because ultimately the contextualisation and the application of the learning back into your job role, you will see immediate impacts as you go through. This is not something you will reflect necessarily upon at the end, because you'll be seeing that as you go through. And of course, from a wider organisational context, it does mean that some of the teachings and learnings you get from this programme not only support you in your development, but support your wider teams and those that work in aligned departments. So just a bit more information about the our faculty. So John Glimpson is the person that will be delivering this Level 5 Future Leaders apprenticeship for Hult Ashridge. He has got extensive experience within delivering apprenticeships across multiple levels. He's also, as it says there, a former British Army captain. He's, he's a really good guy. He's very, very passionate about leadership and management development, and he's got his own practical experience and practical skills that he can share with you, whether that be through anecdote or whether that's the frameworks and the methodologies that he talks about as he goes through and delivers this programme. In fact, it's really important to us that every member of faculty has worked within different environments. In other words, they are able to walk the talk. They know what it's like to be a manager or a leader. Especially today, there's a lot of changes coming down the line with AI, different generations all being employed at the same time. You know, the requirement for psychological security and all these other elements. And it's important that when you're hearing from the likes of John, that you're able to actually, and he's able to demonstrate to you how to actually apply the learning practically into your job role. So it never feels as if an apprenticeship is something you're doing on the side. Moreover, it is something that you do as part of your day-to-day job role. So let's just move on to the subjects that we're going to be covering. So as you can see there are 6 units that we cover. Now those 6 units have all got credits that are attached to them, which ends up being that Level 5 Chartered Management Institute diploma. But also we have taken serious consideration about the programme as we've created it. It has to align to the knowledge, skills and behaviours that are stipulated as part of this particular apprenticeship standard. So just to give you an overview of what that means, there is every so often apprenticeships are either devised as being new or reviewed, and they are reviewed by a panel of experts, and that includes employers. So everything that we as a training provider are asked to deliver, we do so knowing that what the skills and the knowledge and the behaviours and the duties that you will be performing as managers or future leaders are really ensconced within what the employers are looking for. But equally, we are a business school, an executive business school, who've been developing, future leaders and execs for a number of years. We also know that there is real power in making sure that line managers and managers of people, processes, procedures, etc., really start to understand different aspects and facets of what management looks like. It's not just leading people, it's not just leading process, it's not just understanding finance. There is lots of things that go into making up the real core abilities that you need in order to drive not only your own ambition from a management perspective and the ambitions that you have for your colleagues, but also to make sure that you're making really good data-driven thinking decisions, that you're able to build excellent case studies and build those key stakeholder engagements, etc. So what we've put together here is these 6 units. So we start with operational planning, which is strategically aligned to decision making. So again, it's not about, I'm not in an operational role, therefore this probably isn't for me. It doesn't matter what we do and what we're responsible as part of our day-to-day roles. We all have an operational element that's assigned to it. And it's being able to look at that planning, those processes, and overlay new frameworks, new methodologies, and new thought leadership that will come from the likes of John back into your business to make your lives a little bit easier, as well as developing those knowledge, skills, and behaviours. Finance and budgeting always appears in our delivery, whether it be an apprenticeship or other programs that we deliver here at Hult Ashridge. And the reason being is because the more you climb within a management and leadership role, the more finance elements come into your day-to-day thinking, whether that's making those data-driven thinking outcomes, or whether it's actually having those really in-depth conversations with finance. We're not going to turn you into financial accountants. That's not the purpose of this. But it is really to help you to ask the questions of your colleagues in finance, perhaps, or your senior leaders, asking the questions that get to the answers that you need. Some of you will already have budget responsibility. Others may be moving into that sphere. But again, finance touches every single department within every single organisation, whether you're in the health sector, whether you're in the private sector, the third sector, etc. We also have a unit that's called Writing a Management Report. Now, that's about understanding the power of project management and building business cases and case studies. But we also use this particular unit to support you in your work-based project that you will be writing as you go through this particular programme. I will come on to what that means in the next slide, but again, it's there to help you so that you're delivering the best work that you can for your final endpoint assessment. And all of this will become certainly clearer as I go through the programme. Managing stakeholders. Now, again, a number of us work with teams. We work cross-department, we work cross-organisations. You know, Hult Ashridge has many, and Hult International Business Schools has many different entities that are part of that. And we have to navigate who the best person is to speak to within each of those entities. Now, it's not to say that you're not doing stakeholder engagement as it is, but again, look at this, that we're going to be giving you some new ways of thinking, those new frameworks and methodologies, and all of which contextualise to your job role. So we're not going to be asking you to think about or write about something that isn't relevant to you, your job role, your organisation, or indeed your sector. Now, managing change, we've been as a business school, we have a lot of research around change management, transformation, restructuring, etc. And given that we've redesigned this recently because the standard did change, one of the areas that we put in was this managing change unit. There isn't a sector, there isn't a company that isn't going through some kind of change. And as managers and as leaders, whether it's dealing with organisational structural change or whether that's change with a small c, you want to put a new process or procedure in place within your own teams. It's building out that participative approach and giving you the frameworks to make sure that you've got the cadence that you need in order to adopt a change management procedure or process that then lands successfully with your team. So you're getting less pushback, as it were. And then, of course, we come to managing teams. This is all about learning what you like as a manager, but also how to drive high performing teams, but also knowing that our teams are full of individuals. We all have our own humanistic traits, and it's how to manage that. It could be coaching conversations that you need to have with a member of a team, that we're going to teach you different ways to do so. It could well be you're having to have a difficult conversation. So we'll give you the knowledge, skills and behaviours that wrap around this whole apprenticeship. I'm just going to move on to the timeline and then I'm going to pause for questions. So essentially, the programme that delivers all of those units that I've just described runs for 12 months. There's 12 months of teaching. Now, we took the decision, and we did this in consultation with a lot of our employers, to deliver this in a virtual environment. The reason being is because there are people that are quite dispersed within sort of entry level and middle management roles across England, and rather than insisting that as delightful as it is to come to Ashridge House, and you can see that behind me, you know, rather than put you under extra strain, then we decided that we'd bring the delivery to you in the form of virtual learning. So for each of those blocks that you see there, they are separated into 8-week chunks. So each unit is 8 weeks long. And within that unit, you can expect 2 half-day sessions that are delivered by John. So you come together as a group, and it's very interactive. I want to say that we're not a chalk and talk organisation, and by that I mean John's not going to stand in front of you, whether it be virtually or in person, and just talk to you about lots of different theories. You make lots of notes, we send you off for a coffee, we bring you back, and then the subjects change. We get you working with your peers, we get you learning together, and we also give you that safe space to think about the different frameworks and methodologies that you can then take back and apply to your job roles. Also, John will be delivering webinars. Now, at the moment, they are currently pre-recorded, but we're looking at changing that to perhaps a mix of pre-recording or live delivered webinars. But there are 2 webinars in that 8-week period as well. And the rest of the learning for that 8 weeks is delivered via self-directed learning and coursework, if you will. Now, what we've done as we use a system called Aptem. Now, Aptem is an apprenticeship management system. It's very slick. A number of providers use it, and we've certainly really enjoyed the experience of adopting Aptem into our apprenticeship delivery. But the one thing that Aptem allows us to do is to give you week by week, month by month guidelines in terms of, by the end of this week, you should have done X, Y, and Z. The reason we do that is because what we do appreciate is that you've also got busy roles, and that's why it's important to think about this as something that's part of your job role, not something that sits on the side, because you'll get more benefit out of it as you apply and contextualise and embed that learning. So within that 8-week period, you're going to have a real blended learning approach. You're also going to be building your own networks within your peer group, that cohort group, but you're also going to be talking to your subject matter experts internally, working closely with your line manager, and I'll come on to that shortly. So each of those 8-week blocks take you through to that 12-month learning of teaching and learning, and you will learn new knowledge, new skills, new behaviours wrapped around with obviously the delivery of John, and also the research that we deliver here at Hult Ashridge. But you will notice that underpinning that is a work-based project. Now, it's the reason we have that, so it's running as a golden thread throughout, is because each of the modules that you're going to be learning from really will help you to build a work-based project that is not only useful for you in your development as you as a line manager or your line managers, it also becomes a bit of a strategic blueprint for you to not only finesse this and deliver this to your endpoint assessor, and I'm going to mention more about that shortly, but also you've then got a document that you can talk to your leadership team about. It could well be that you've decided to really focus and hone in on a particular area of your department, and using all of the knowledge, skills and behaviours, you're actually going to come out with something that's quite credible, that not only you can talk about with great authority, but also something that can be adopted wider in your organisation. So that's where that writing and management rule comes in, because you will be encouraged all the way through this to start thinking about and start developing what that work-based project looks like as you go through the teachings and learnings. But we also make sure that we bring together in that 8-week unit the opportunity for you to really start finesse and work with John and others to really hone what it is you're trying to do. We don't want our projects to be so broad that you're never going to get through them. We don't want them to be so niche and so narrow that you're not able to discuss the knowledge, skills and behaviours that you've learned throughout the entirety of your programme. So again, we're there to support you throughout. And I'll come on to additional support that you could expect to receive from us. We then move you into something called Gateway. Now, this is a natural process as part of the apprenticeship end-to-end. So we, not just us, but other providers will pop you into a gateway period. This is where we get you ready for that endpoint assessment. Now, the endpoint assessment will be delivered by an external assessor. Again, that will be somebody from the Chartered Management Institute. And the purpose of that is that they will review your portfolio of evidence, which you'll be gathering as you go through your apprenticeship. They will obviously be reviewing your work-based project, but you'll be delivering a presentation to that assessor, and then that will open up a professional discussion. And remember, you're going to be writing about what you know about. It's about your job role, your organisation, your sector. So you will know more than they will. And we also help you when you're getting ready for your endpoint assessment with mock questions, and so we get you ready. We don't just get you to Gateway and say good luck and we hope you do well and let us know how you get on. We're here to support you all the way through. I'm going to take a brief pause. Is there any questions at this point for myself, Richard? Good. So I'll carry on. So what I have put here, and this is one of the reasons why I stressed right at the beginning, I will be sharing this slide deck with you that have registered and joined this information session, is we've put together a high-level learning outcomes for each of the units I've already discussed. So ultimately, the reason that I've given you this is, one, to help you to start to think about your job role, but also where you see yourself, how you could apply this learning. And again, we're not expecting this to be brand new in terms of what you're doing in your job role. What is going to feel new is the different ways of treating different subjects. So throughout this, you've got these high-level learning outcomes. And again, it's important that you take time with yourself and your line manager to really look at what those learning outcomes look like. But I also want to talk to you about the Chartered Management Institute unit assessments. So we took the decision initially that we would use the Chartered Management Institute assignments, which are set by them and are going to be marked by them, which is absolutely fine. But one of the things that we're going to do to support you before we send your assignment off to be marked via the CMI is that we are going to review your assignments as they come in. The reason we're doing that is because, one, we want to make sure you've captured everything that you needed to. And two, if we feel as though there are areas that you need to elongate, you need to give a bit more context to, we will come back to you and ask you to do that. When your assignments are sent off to the Chartered Management Institute, they are marked and verified by their marking team, and your assignment would either be pass or refer. What refer means is that they've noticed something that needs to be a bit more, there needs to be a bit more context. What I will say at this point, just to alleviate any fear that may have just crept in at this point, you will not be asked to rewrite your entire assignment. It will just be, look at this section, we need you to expand on your thought process here. So again, you'll be given guidance not only by us and our wonderful programme team and your progression partner, and I'm going to come on to their role shortly, but also you will also get good feedback from the Chartered Management Institute. It's these assignments that not only help support your development and really help you to start to consolidate that learning into the practical sense, but also it gives you a really good conversation piece with your line manager and your wider leadership team in terms of these are the things I'm writing about in relation to planning, finance, stakeholders, etc. So again, these are documents that don't just relate to academic rigor, albeit that is important, but these documents can actually really help benefit not only you but your wider teams. Any questions on this point? Good, okay. I'm assuming the silence means all good, all clear at the moment. So what I've also done here is just put a bit more detail around those learning outcomes. The reason I've done this, as I said, with the high level learning outcomes is there is a deeper dive here. And for some of you, you're thinking about joining our intake in April, and we would be delighted to see you. But it's making sure that you and your line manager have a really good conversation before you apply for the apprenticeship. And by giving you the different learning outcomes for each of the different units that we're going to be delivering, it does give you the option to say to your line manager, I don't think I necessarily cover that element in my job role. How can we support me? How can we ensure that I'm talking to our subject matter experts as well? The majority of this you will cover in your job role, and if you've got any questions around that, then you can reach out to me separately. But it is important that the majority is covered in what you do for a day-to-day basis. This is a work-based learning opportunity. If you had to go outside of your job role too often, then it's going to jar for you, and we have to look at that from a compliance point of view as well. So again, giving you this extra detail really helps to consolidate that thinking. So I mentioned to you, what I do want to mention to you is that once you complete the level 5 Future Leaders programme, there is a natural progression for you if you chose to, if you wanted to move on to our Chartered Manager degree programme, which is an accelerated programme. So those that join the whole Ashridge Future Leaders programme, you will have the opportunity at the end of it or in the future, in the near future, to go on to a deeper dive into leadership and management using a fully funded further apprenticeship progression. This is really important to us because as you develop in your management and leadership styles within your organisation, and we do know that a number of our apprentices not only get promoted as they're going through our programs of apprenticeship, but they also get promoted afterwards. Then what we want to do is to really give you a deeper dive still. And at the end of it, you could achieve a bachelor's in business management awarded by us here at Hult Ashridge, but we're currently in talks with the Chartered Management Institute, and it really is our ambition to put some professional accreditation on top of that level 6 programme as well. So that's just to give you food for thought. It's not, you don't have to do the level 6. You certainly have to do the level 5 to go on to that level 6. But it's just to let you know that, your learning development doesn't just stop at the level 5. We can take you further should you wish to. Now, I talked earlier about the apprenticeship support. Now, we've got Richard on here. We've got Beth, who's one of our employer partners, who used to run the endpoint assessments for us here at Hult Ashridge. We've also got a programme team, a support team. We also have expertise internally for anybody that may have special educational needs to ensure that every individual that joins our apprenticeships are supported throughout. And one way that we do this and it works really effectively, and we've got great feedback, is by giving you somebody called a progression partner. I'm going to say a coach, if you will. They're not members of faculty, but they are senior people who have got years of experience at coaching and mentoring people. They've got years of experience in guiding people through their apprenticeship, and they really are there to support you. So not only do they support you on a one-to-one basis, now we don't mandate that you have to meet your progression partner on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, because ultimately you're all individuals, or those of you employers who are thinking of putting people on this programme. Everybody comes to this as an individual. Everyone comes to this with their own ambition and nuances within their job role. But if you do feel as if you need that extra support, it could be you're coming up to endpoint assessment. It could be you're having a bit of a wobble around your assignment, for example, or whatever. Or how do I apply this learning in a particular way? They are there to support you and help you. You reach out, you own that you drive that particular part of the relationship. We, as I've already said, are here to provide anybody with any additional support if they need to. We don't ask anyone to declare that, things like this, but be rest assured that we are there to support. The other good thing about having your progression partner, who may I say will be a named individual who will be with you barring accident or incident throughout your entire learning journey, including that preparation for endpoint assessment. They will also meet with you and your line manager or a mentor, if your company chooses to put one of those in place, every 10 weeks. The reason we do that is, one, because it keeps us compliant. This is, after all, government funding. That's one reason, but the actual real deliverable on this is that it gives you and your line manager the opportunity to reflect, to take on some reflective practice looking back at those last 10 weeks, but moreover, it gives you the opportunity to think about what's coming. Now, we don't expect your line manager to be subject matter experts on everything we deliver, because nobody is. But it might well be that, say, the finance module is coming up, and there might be somebody better placed within your organisation to support you. And that's absolutely fine. And in fact, we encourage that. And it might be that it's that individual that sometimes supports you in your tripartite. But the fact that we do this and we triangulate this means that it's keeping everybody together and making sure that the benefits of the learning and development you're getting from your apprenticeship also translates to your line manager and beyond. So just to focus on and bring together what I've talked about. So the first 12 months you will be in learning, and that's where you're developing new knowledge, skills and behaviours, giving you the opportunity and the bandwidth to contextualise and embed that learning into your job role and your teams, because it's really important that when you're on the leadership unit that your teams feel benefit from that as well. We also, and I'm going to come on to this, make sure that you get the bandwidth and the time you need in order to apply and prepare for your assignments and your coursework, etc. We then move you into Gateway, where you get ready for that endpoint assessment preparation, and you're finessing that final project proposal. And then you move into your endpoint assessment, where hopefully we celebrate your successes, and we certainly make sure that at the end of your apprenticeship journey, you will be invited to a graduation here at Hult Ashridge campus with you and your family to really celebrate the success of completing your this apprenticeship and others. Again, before I move on, any questions at all? So just moving on to the eligibility and compliance. So obviously we've got Richard here as well, but essentially this is government funding. So therefore, one would expect there to be some quite strict criteria about, who we can accept on our programmes, who we can accept on apprenticeships, not just us, all training providers. A few I want to point out, and then I'm going to hand over to Richard if he wants to elongate on anything anything else. A few I'm going to point out: must be contracted to work at least 30 hours per week, and you must have a contract that's either permanent or will last the duration of the apprenticeship, which includes completion of that endpoint assessment. The 30 hours is considered by the Department for Education to be full-time, so that is something for you to consider. Richard, do you want to come in on any of those other points, seeing as we have you here?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. Can you hear me, Cheryl?
Yes, I can.
I think the main thing, just to, if you're slightly under 30 hours a week, that would be a discussion. They've relaxed the rules slightly with that. So if it is less than 30 hours per week, we can discuss that with you. Otherwise, if you tick all those boxes, then it's highly likely you're eligible to access the funding.
Thank you, Richard. I do just want to draw your attention, everybody, to the last 2 points. So with the support of your employer, able to commit approximately 8 hours working hours on average per week to the apprenticeship. What this doesn't mean is, one, you say to your team, your line manager, whoever within your organisation, I'm sorry, I'm not doing anything work related today, I'm focusing on my apprenticeship. It doesn't mean that. And in some respects, we wouldn't want you to do that exclusively, because you wouldn't be applying and contextualising your learning, because you'd just be writing about it. And that's not where the stickiness of this learning opportunity comes from. What it does give you is bandwidth. Now, that bandwidth can be used for, finessing your coursework. You've got a submission coming up, going through the activities on a week-by-week basis, as I mentioned with APTEM. But moreover, it's the bandwidth for you to apply the new learning. The way I like to describe it is, every time you do something that you would not have done had it not been from John's delivery of this particular programme, that counts to that 8 hours. It is unhelpfully called off the job. It's not our thing. It's something that the government decided to call it. But honestly, it is about you taking that time to actually apply that learning. Of course, there will be elements where you're also attending 2 half-day live sessions. That counts as well. You'll be attending those webinars that I mentioned, of which there are 2 of them in an 8-week period. We have got really extensive experience, and your progression partner will really be here to support you on this, at how you can really utilise those hours that not only benefit you in your learning journey, but also benefit those around you. We've also, with APTEM, created some really, really neat resources. So there's something that's, Emma, before I go on, Emma, please come in.
It is just around the hours, really, because how much is absorbed and how much really is on top, because some of us might, like myself, feel that there's not enough hours anyway for their full-time job, and how will I fit this in? Yeah. So that's where I'm wondering, in reality, how much do you need to do above and beyond in terms of writing that up and feeding it in?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest and being completely transparent with you, there are elements that you will be absorbing into your job role, because, as I said, naturally you're going to be practically applying the learning as you go. There will be elements where you may have to just complete your assignment, and that might happen in work time. But I'm not going to also, I'm going to be transparent here, because this has got to be the right opportunity for you all. There may be times during an evening or some weekends where you might be completing your assignment, but the ultimate aim with an apprenticeship is that you are able to complete it during your working hours. So will your line manager have to give you a little bit of extra time when it's coming up to your assignment? Then yes. But the one thing I was going to go on to say is that the resources that we've put together, not only for you, but also for your line manager, is called something called a skills developer, where we can actually, from unit to unit, we can go through and say, you need to think about your application of learning. You could consider this and this to help you. You can consider this as a discussion topic, and you can consider this as, you know, pointing towards your assignment. The other thing that we've also got in APTEM is something called APTEM Virtual Assistant, AVA for short. Now that is linked to the learning outcomes for this particular apprenticeship. And again, it gives you the opportunity to say, how can I use the knowledge, skills and behaviours, you know, to apply to my job role? It also helps you to think about what you need to focus on from an assignment base. Does that answer your question, or do you need me to go a little bit deeper?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Thanks, Cheryl.
You're very welcome. And of course, as I was saying, some of these, so we've actually in APTEM, we've also really honed different activities to different off the job hours. So if you complete the weekly activities, it will naturally give you the hours that you can then put into the where you log your hours. So we are here to help you along the way. So it's not just a case of you've got so many hours to make up throughout this apprenticeship, you know, let us know if you need any help. We've really refined that help and that support and that guidance from a, as I say, from a weekly, monthly basis to really support you in those activities. And your progression partner is also there to really support that. We do look at your hours as we go through those tripartite meetings. We find a lot of people forget to log them, but they're logging them somewhere else. So we just make sure that we keep you on track, so you have a successful completion and really develop those knowledge, skills and behaviours. The final piece on this slide I want to refer you to is undertaking an initial assessment in maths and English. Now, the government last year, I believe, decided that we don't necessarily have to deliver functional skills. So for those of you who don't have GCSE or equivalent in maths and English, unless your employer wants us, or your line manager wants us to give you that additional learning, we don't have to deliver functional skills. But what we do need is to understand your starting points with maths and English. So as part of your application, you'll be required to complete an initial assessment. What I will say to you is we do review those assessment results, and if we feel as though perhaps you've rushed or you would benefit from reviewing that again, we will come back to you. So it's not pass fail. There is an entry level where we would potentially come back to you and say, we don't know that you're necessarily ready. We would suggest that you perhaps look at additional trainings before you join our next cohort. But again, you're guided through that by our admissions team, by me, by Richard and others. So again, it's not something to be scared of. It's just something that we need to know. Why do we need to know it? It's good to know the starting points. We are also Ofsted regulated, and the drive to drive up English and maths, as we know, is something that's taken very seriously. So what's next? So I will be sharing the recording and the slide deck with you. The important thing is use the slide deck to have that conversation firstly with your line manager. The fact that you're on here means that your employer is aware. I know there's a number of you from one particular trust, and I work with that trust very closely. And I know that a lot of your employers will absolutely embrace this as a learning opportunity for you. But speak to your line manager about it, because your line manager support is really integral, not just for you signing up, but throughout the journey. Once you've had that and you've received all the internal approvals that you need, and please refer back to your own organisations in terms of what that looks like for you. You will then be required to complete an initial interest form. I will also send that link out with the details I'll be sharing with you later. The initial interest form essentially asks us compliance questions, but what we also do is ask you to tell us why you want to do this programme. We ask you to tell us who your line manager is, who your apprenticeship lead is, and that's really good information for us. Once we receive that, we've reviewed it, that then sparks the application. And it's not going to come as a surprise to you that our applications are run through AppTen, that apprenticeship system that I've already talked about. Now, the onboarding and the application process as an individual, we will ask you for your personal details. We will ask you to complete, your next of kin, just details like that. We will also ask you to upload a professional resume. Not just dates only, please. We need to be able to see what you're doing in your day-to-day job. And if you've changed jobs over the last few years, then we ask you to, give us a 10-year potted history on what it is that you've been doing. This doesn't only help with the onboarding, but it certainly helps our faculty, John in this case, to know who he's got in the room, what the cohort characteristics look like. We also ask your line manager. So we also send a line manager link to you as well, or to them as well. The reason being is because we want to triangulate the responses. It helps us, it helps you. Now, one of the things we're going to ask your line manager to complete is something called a skills radar, and you'll be completing one of these as well. It's a diagnostic, if you will. So it's going to ask you a number of questions that relate to this pathway of learning. And it's going to ask you to grade yourself 1 to 6. 1 is no prior knowledge, fine. 6 is I'm a subject matter expert. When we talk about subject matter expertise, you feel as though you could confidently stand in a room full of people and deliver that subject as a lesson. That doesn't mean to say that you can't put yourself at 6. If you really do genuinely believe you understand that, that's great. And as part of the onboarding process we conduct behind the scenes, we will then look at that on a case-by-case basis. The reason I mention that is because, again, going back to funding, if you were to put yourself at 5 and 6s all the way through that diagnostic, you wouldn't be eligible. And the reason being is because we do need to be able to demonstrate 50% new learning for anything to do with these apprenticeships. And also, why would you want to come on a programme where you know practically everything we're going to be teaching? It wouldn't be worthwhile use of your time, and we can perhaps have a discussion about another apprenticeship that might be more valuable for you. The reason I'm mentioning this to you now is because line managers tend to mark everyone very high because they really want you to do well. They really believe in you, and this is why they've put you on this programme. It's just so you perhaps can have that conversation with them also. Once we get your application in and it's completed, we do a review. We do also conduct an ID check. That's you, your passport on a Teams with a member of the admissions team. It's part of the eligibility check. It takes 5 minutes. It don't take no time at all. So that concludes the information session. I really hope that you've got a lot out of this, and that, if there are any questions, etc. I am going to stop recording now. So thank you all for attending, but please remain if there's anything else you want to speak to either myself or Richard